This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Find us on YouTube at Eldorado Gaming TX or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. Here at My Mythical Meta, we talk about gaming with friends and strangers, resolving conflicts, and keeping game nights fun, interesting, and recurring. Our game of choice is Magic the Gathering, but our hope is that what we share is relevant for board gamers, RPG groups, video gamers, and maybe even your poker night. I'm Travis, and with my brother Benjamin and my friends Derek and Randy, we've been playing Magic together since 2014. The secret to a healthy meta is not in the game you play, it's being good friends. Subscribe to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. Good evening, my name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by Derek.
Hey.
And Randy.
Howdy.
Sadly, Benjamin is not here with us. He is feeling under the weather.
Randy and I are under the weather, technically.
There's a bad storm happening on their side of town. Hopefully we can get through this episode without hearing the thunder in the background or without y'all losing power. This is going to be a great episode. We are going to talk about role-playing game etiquette. These are ways to behave so that you can have a great time playing any role-playing game. Our experience is mostly with Dungeons & Dragons, but we have been taking our foray into Pathfinder over the last few months. And when we were in high school and college, we played World of Darkness. We played Mage the Ascension, a game by White Wolf Publishing, and that's the game that we're going to be pursuing in just a few weeks. But we're going to talk about how to behave during role-playing games. Guys, have y'all ever had the experience of role-playing with strangers?
Well, Randy and I have. We met a couple guys, I think, off of Reddit or something like that. Remember with Justin?
Yeah, we were playing D&D. Justin, I believe, was running a module. I want to say it was Tyranny of Dragons.
Yeah, the first one? No, is that Horde of the Dragon Queen?
I don't know. They all blend together.
I don't know. One of the modules, the beginning modules, we found two guys somewhere and played with them for a couple different modules, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, so it turned into a more long-term thing?
Yeah.
About how long would you say you played with them?
I would say 6 or 7 sessions, maybe?
We played the full
module
of whatever that base one is, where you're like level 1.
Lost Minds of
The Mines of Phandelver?
That's it. We did that, and then I think we did Horde of the Dragon Queen, or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, and then I tried to do one of the modules with them, and then it fell off, and then we never spoke again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that happens.
And then, technically, my first time playing with y'all, I knew of y'all, but Derek was really my only close contact, because you and Michael were another 2 years older than I am at that point.
I guess everybody's first game is technically with strangers.
Unless you're just a full group of friends that start together.
Right. So I started playing role-playing games in the Boy Scouts. We had kind of a foundation of common experience that we bonded over and that we used to kind of create our friendships. And then we started playing D&D as just the way we would spend time on car rides and campouts. So I don't really count those guys as strangers. When I was in college, though, I think that was my first time where it really was just me and my roommate Richard, and then 2 or 3 other people who we figured out they also wanted to play D&D, or they also wanted to play Mutants and Masterminds. And so we just met in the same study room and started playing that way. Most games I've played in have been pretty good. I like meeting people and interacting with them in a role-playing setting. How about you guys?
Well, I guess maybe I've done it more than just those 2 guys, because I guess technically I played with you and Richard and a couple of those other guys a few times, and at one point they were strangers. So I don't know, it's all right getting to meet new people, because then Richard and I would end up hanging out for a whole year after without you.
Oh yeah, y'all did Minecraft adventures and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so In the best case scenario, role-playing games can form a foundation of new friendships, while in your worst case scenario, the experience goes bad and we end up just not playing with them. Today's episode is about role-playing game etiquette. Hopefully, by following these guidelines or acknowledging these responsibilities, any role-playing game, whether with strangers or with friends, can be the foundation of a strong friendship and open communication. The first thing that I want to get across is that the rules of a game do not determine if a game is fun, even though they can certainly help. Instead, the way we behave is the foundation of a good time for ourselves and others. A running thread through our past couple of episodes is that everyone has a responsibility for everyone else's fun. And role-playing games are a hallmark of that. They are collaborative storytelling. It's a group of people all trying to come up with a story together. I think some people see it as the game master or the dungeon master controlling the players like puppets, and names like game master or dungeon master certainly don't help with that image. But the players have a lot of agency in creating a story too. And oftentimes the DM's plans will not turn out perfect. I mean, we've all taken turns in the chair behind the screen. Have any of your plans ever gone perfectly?
Never.
Rarely.
They always go the opposite way they want them to go.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
I even did that adventure straight from the Strixhaven rulebook, and you guys found a way to go into the mansion while everyone was there instead of going in at nighttime.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember how
When
we
it was
did.
closed.
Because I was like a star football player or something like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm welcome here.
Yeah, instead of going in at night after it was closed and fighting all the guards, y'all were like, let's go in the middle of the day.
Who's going to stop
the
us?
ball.
The staff?
Let's go in the middle of the day and, rub shoulders with all the professors and walk around like we own the place.
Yeah.
We
And,
basically just
it
crashed a work party.
like a faculty gala or something. Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of what we mean, is that no DM's plans are going to turn out perfect. Role-playing games are collaborative storytelling. And I've got to say that having my players go into the mansion in the middle of a faculty gala was a lot more fun than going in at nighttime alone and triggering off a bunch of traps. It was so much fun for me to roleplay all of those professors and stuff.
Being the dungeon master is less puppeteering and more like cat wrangling. Just trying to shepherd.
You desperately have a bunch of cats that you're trying to push in your direction.
And they are
in the direction that you want
resistant
them to
as
go.
can be. And so it is a lot of
absolutely.
improv. But don't be scared to do it. But you can always just say, give me a second and think of something, like, all right, you got me. Give me a minute.
I think a lot of people are afraid to DM because of that fear or that worry. I mean, I think for that mansion adventure, I had to tell y'all, well, I did not expect you to come in the middle of the day, so give me a few minutes to think of some random professors' names and to, stuff like that.
Yeah. I even try to plan 2 or 3 different potential avenues that I think y'all will come up with, and 10% of the time, y'all do anything remotely similar to that.
Yeah, I'll often think, what are the most likely ways they would try to solve this particular puzzle? And then the players always come up with other stuff. So here are some things that both players and dungeon masters can do that hopefully can ensure that your participation in a role-playing game can be fun and the foundation of a friendship. I also want to start off by saying some people prefer video games, but they think they want to play a role-playing game. If you like video games more, that's totally fine. With Baldur's Gate 3 coming out right now, there are a lot of players, I think, who are coming into D&D and joining these online groups, saying, well, I'm supposed to like all this. And then they start getting flustered or shy or panicking, or they're just naturally introverted people attempting to get into what is inherently a social game. Obviously, we want to encourage everyone to give role-playing games a shot because we find them a lot of fun and we find them a great friendship activity, but it can be harder for introverts to get involved in a role-playing game. Hopefully the advice we give today can help those people. So, our first big tip for both dungeon masters and players, and we're going to kind of say dungeon master throughout, but game master, storyteller, whatever your game uses as the person who's coming up with the added responsibility, all the names are the same. Make sure that you participate in any Session 0 discussions. If you go back in our playlist, check out episode 4, because there's a lot of information about holding a helpful Session 0 with your playgroup in that particular episode. But we do have a couple little things we can add about role-playing game etiquette, things that players can do during Session 0. Randy, start us off with something that a dungeon master can do during Session 0.
I feel like some of the key responsibilities for a dungeon master in Session 0 is to lay out what the world that the players are going to be in is like. The more information you can give them, the better, of course. We recently did a system.
It's called Dawn of Ages.
Yes, Dawn of Ages.
Travis here with a post-recording edit. The game is called Dawn of Worlds. Dawn of Worlds. Yeah.
And that's a fun way to get your players into a world if y'all want to together homebrew like a whole world for yourselves, because you take turns setting up everything from the physical map,
the physical geography of your world,
and then the history, and
the towns, the history, the monsters,
the races, and the gods and the avatars. Like you're playing a god basically. That's creating it.
Yeah,
with
Dawn
gods.
of Ages is like a 3-page PDF, and all of your players can take turns influencing the world. Mm-hmm. That way, once you've decided to play a role-playing game in this world, all of your players know all of the backstory.
Yeah, so they're not having to constantly ask about, do I know anything about this? Once they make their character, the player will know the history, and then they can determine, well, my character is a historian. So they're going to know all about this civilization, maybe in particular,
right?
And it's also just a fun way, I think, to help get your players invested.
Getting the players buy-in for the game that you want to run. Yeah, like getting them invested. Not only, of course, in a system or genre that you want to play, but getting their buy-in for the mood.
Exactly.
What overall atmosphere of this game can everyone be interested in? And as the Dungeon Master, that is kind of your job. Kind of putting forth your ideas, saying, I want to run a game in this particular mood or this particular genre. Mm-hmm. Something to keep in mind is that the Dungeon Master is taking on an added responsibility. You are going to create the foundations of the adventures or the setting or the other characters that your players are going to interact with. My advice here is to accept this and don't resent your players. A lot of times, players often have the luxury of just showing up and making decisions in the moment. It doesn't take as much quote-unquote planning to be a player. But if you've agreed to be the Dungeon Master, you do have that added responsibility, but don't resent your players for it. Mm-hmm. Be proud of the things you create and show them off. Derek, tell us about that last bullet point under Dungeon Masters.
Find the player's boundaries and establish your own. I think it goes with the Session 0 stuff. Make sure the content and all that stuff that you're doing is appropriate for the people you're playing with. Mm-hmm. If we're gonna start doing like hardcore drug use or just some really awful stuff, or we're doing a historically accurate, which is just quotations for different little things.
Yeah.
Some people, it's a fantasy world. We don't have to stick to historically accurate. We don't have to stick to, the really gory, gritty things that pervade
gory
all of
or
life.
Gritty or sensitive topics.
We don't need to have slavery in fantasy games. We don't have to have abuse and all that stuff. If that's part of a story or whatever. But, if someone's uncomfortable with that, just leave it out. Change it.
Yeah. If this is a time to compromise. So we put it here under the Dungeon Master to find the player's boundaries. If any of your players have something that is a no-no, a topic that they were not interested in when playing their fantasy pretend game, then you as the Dungeon Master can leave those things out. Respect a player's boundary if they're not interested in addressing a certain topic in their fantasy game. Role-playing games are meant to be escapism from real life. And so if somebody has a topic that they're not interested in addressing or dealing with, then leave it out. Or, like I said, compromise. Find ways to maneuver around that topic if you feel it's important for it to be in your game.
Yeah, save it for a different group of people if you just have to have it.
Save it for a different system or a different game, or write a book. You know, if it's a topic that you think is super important that you need to get off your chest, write a short story, write a novella. But if we're playing a game together, we all have a responsibility for everyone's fun. And so if something's off limits, then leave it off limits. Players, during the Session 0 discussion, during the time you're playing together, your character should try to fit the mood. You should try to fit the genre that's agreed upon. If we're playing medieval fantasy, then I don't need to make, Nacho Libre the luchador. They don't necessarily go together, and they don't match the mood unless everyone else is doing wacky, crazy things too. I don't know. Does that make sense, guys?
I 100% agree with what you're saying. Like if
people are always saying, here's Bob the Fighter in the same group as Rashtar the Elven Druid.
Yeah, if people want to buy in and go all in on like a role playing stuff like that, like they've got a character backstory, and they've got all this filled in, and they've got some kind of fantasy name or something like that, and then this other person has Ronald McDonald or whatever, whatever, I don't know. It undermines, like, now that player feels stupid for
putting the effort in at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
trying.
Okay, yeah, you have to, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, you don't want to be the person who makes other people feel dumb for playing the game that you all agreed to play. Mm-hmm. The same is true about role-playing in general, about trying to put on a certain voice or talking in character. Those are all reasons that people are attracted to this game, so that all of our inner theater nerd can come out and we can play pretend like we did when we were kids. The person who looks down and says that stuff is stupid, that's going to put a damper on the reason people came to play in the first place. Now, on the other hand, if everyone else wants to maneuver through your game like a World of Warcraft raid, and it's all about the system mechanics and combos and things like that, then maybe the theater nerd might feel out of place. But it's about the group. It's about the consensus of the group and what the group wants. I feel like players should, when they come into a group and they come into a group game like Dungeons & Dragons, players should be ready to help the group.
Yeah.
Randy, do you want to add anything there about like loner characters or playing nice?
I was just saying, it's a co-op game, and so if you do have someone that's coming in, like if you're playing a group of adventurers that are out to kill the big bad guy, and then one of your players is like, well, I think the big bad guy is cool. I want to kill villagers, and it's like making it hard for us to justify keeping you around. There's
no reason in the game for that person to stay if they're not helping.
Yeah, and my very, very first time playing, the person who helped me make my character, because I had no idea what I was doing, didn't know anything about the world, really. I was kind of thrown in. He made my character a worshiper of the god that the rest of the group was trying to stop. The rest of the group was working against, I'm going to say like Baal or something like that, you know? And he made me a secret worshiper of Baal that was like a spy. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how to play this, So it made it hard for me as a new player.
Yeah.
But it's also just like how am I supposed to be doing this going against the group? It was a real kind of a pain, especially as a first time player. Thankfully, we got it situated and we just kind of cut that part out.
Yeah. Your Dwarven Berserker.
Yeah, my Dwarf Barbarian. I was like, well, how do I talk, pulling the DM aside every 30 minutes to say, well, like, my guy wants to undermine this. And everyone's like, why does he keep pulling the DM aside? It's really weird.
Yeah. It's weird in both real life and in the game.
Yeah. Now,
why do we keep a person who is not helping us in our goals?
Yeah. Now, I feel like maybe with, more playing online and with, like computers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
it
private
could probably
messages and
be
direct
easier
messages
nowadays to just be like, as you're role playing with, the team, being like, yeah, I'm helping this. But then you can privately message the DM saying, when no one's looking, I would like to try to blank. I would like to try to,
I'm going to fake helping to lift the boulder.
Yes, things to set them back. And it's easier to kind of like do that. Or if you're just more experienced, there's a lot of different ways to do it, I feel like, now versus when we started.
I don't know. I feel like in real life, if we were playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons and then it came out after 3 or 4 sessions that Derek's character was working against us the whole time, I think I'd be real life mad.
I mean, possibly. It just depends on, I feel like, how...
Right? I mean, Derek, how would you feel if 4 sessions in, you learned that my pirate merfolk Silvano was actually against you guys the whole time?
I'd be like, I knew it. I know it.
What?
I've been telling everybody this whole time. He's no
you
good.
Picked the wrong
He's trash.
You picked the wrong person because Derek's actual character is not very
Derek,
friendly.
In real life,
yeah,
how would
in real
Derek
life,
feel
yeah. I'm like, oh
me,
man.
Travis, was just undermining all the quests that you guys had been going on.
I mean, if there's like a narrative,
a good narrative
story.
Reason.
Yeah, like maybe we flip you or something like that, or maybe you've been undercover for so long you've got native and you can't betray us anymore or something.
Yeah,
you're like, hey, guys. Like if
agent.
it's all part of a yeah, but then if it turns out it's like, if it's 4 of us playing, one betrays us, and now it's 3v1 v-DM. I don't know. It seems weird. It's like it's supposed to be all of us together kind of thing.
Yeah, see, like,
unless we started out.
I feel like if I want to do a betrayal game, then I would play a betrayal game. I would play Resistance or Battlestar Galactica or Coup. Like, if I want that experience, I can do it in a... Among Us. If I want that experience, I feel like I would want to do it in a one-time, one-game session.
Yeah.
I would feel really cheated if we had spent 3 or 4 months playing a game just to learn that all of our adventures could have gone differently if one person was actually playing.
I think it can be done well secretively. It just, the DM needs to know from the start, and the player who's maybe doing that character needs to know, like, if, I guess, depending on how long you want to run that character, there's going to be a point where you're going to lose control of the character because they're going to get, if they get found out, that character's going to have to go to be run by the DM, and you're going to have to do a new character. And I would say you can't do another betrayal character. But I think it can be done well. It's just you have to make sure, like, y'all don't like it. So if someone came to me and said, "Oh, I want to try this," I'm going to be like, they're not going to like it.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I really think there's a way.
I don't think I'm the right player for a game like that.
I think there's a right way to do it. It may just be that, like, the character wasn't doing anything functionally changing what y'all are doing. It could just be that he's relaying information to the big bad. Or, like, pretending to, like, oh, what happened with you and that guy that you were fighting? It's like, oh, I killed him. But it's like, oh, no, I didn't really kill him. I let him escape when no one was looking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he knows to hide himself because I told everyone else that he killed, so, like, we wouldn't see him again unless he was, like, in disguise. Like,
sure. There's
a way to run it where it's not like he's actively sabotaging, I guess, what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know why necessarily, as long as you could separate your character from your actual person, why the player couldn't know that information. Because, like we said, it's collaborative storytelling. But for one person, they're getting the whole story, and for everyone else is just kind of, like, left in the dark. Like, I'm not my character. I can know things my character doesn't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That Session 0 is a collaborative storytelling opportunity, or role-playing games in general. I'm not reading a book. I'm not playing a video game. I'm part of this. And I don't want my agency to be removed by somebody, I don't know, lying.
Well, I feel
lying
like
in real life.
It's not like...
And also, if the players know, you can have those scenes like as you would see in, like, a movie, TV show, a book, or whatever, where it's
which I actually think would be more fun.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, we can see kind of motivations, what's kind of going on behind the scenes. Maybe we get some background info, kind of, dramatic irony thing going about, like, what's going on with the bad guy or something. Things we wouldn't normally know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a difference of opinion. So, like, y'all would want to know and separate it from your character. To me, it's like, once someone knows, I feel like, even
you
if
feel like it's impossible to not metagame that?
Yeah, I mean, some people can not metagame. Some people can't. And for me, I would be more interested in, like, learning in the moment along with my character, the surprise that, Silvano has actually been working for the Tentacle Cult, this whole time. And like that dun 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 kind of moment. To me, that seems like a lot of fun to roleplay live.
Yeah. I mean, y'all remember that game that I DM'd where I made y'all make 2 characters and then one of them got killed or whatever and became
Derek,
the
I'm
bad
ready
guys?
for the next session of that game. I love
man,
my two characters.
You loved it. My Kristen felt, I don't know, I guess not betrayed by me or anything, but she was, she had ideas in her mind about how she wanted to treat the character, and I took that agency away from her.
Yeah, see, I think because you were the DM and you made that decision for us. Because, I had made a Warlock character that I had been workshopping for years, and I was so excited to get to finally play this guy. And then it was like, oh, I got mind controlled and I'm a bad guy now? Oh.
Which is my bad. I should have told you guys what I was up to the whole time. I just thought it would be a really cool reveal in the moment for you guys.
Yeah. But
I think functionally...
here's some background for the listeners. So Derek had us make 2 characters, a mentor and an apprentice. And then... over the course of the very first session, we would take turns acting as one character or the other as they went on 2 separate adventures. Near the end of that first session, all of our mentor characters, our higher level characters, fail in a huge fight, in a huge conflict, and they basically become the bad guys.
Yeah, they get corrupted.
They become evil, they become corrupted. And so, our younger characters, our apprentice adventurers, eventually they would have to face off against their mentors. I still think the creation of that was really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to more. But you're right. Kristen, your wife Kristen, was not satisfied with the execution of what happened to her character.
Yeah.
Because she had made this... her higher level character was her druid, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it was a druid and a ranger, or a lower character.
Yeah, so she had made this person who was in touch with nature, someone who was spiritually balanced, who's now a bad guy.
A dark druid, shadow druid. Yeah, and so I think if I had gone in knowing that one of them was going to flip, I would have, emotionally prepared for that or made a different character for that. And so, like I said, if I'm the DM and just flipping someone's character on them, that's what I as a player would be more upset about. Versus if the player is like, I want to flip and be a double agent, but because that's the character's choice from the beginning, and then they get to play that out with the DM, and then at a point, reveal it to the rest of the party, and then it's like, okay, that character gets to go off and be part of the bad guy stuff that we don't know anymore, and then the player's going to roll up a new character that joins the party in its place.
Yeah. So let's bring this back. Let's bring this back to focus. That all came from the idea that players, you should be ready to help the group, and that has evolved into something that you should talk about in a session 0. Do you like loners, or are you interested in a betrayal story or things like that? Our next bullet point says, talk openly about things you want and do not want. Being quiet or shy in session 0 is not helpful. I have seen online just in the past week a couple of posts about people who say, I feel like another player is taking over our game. Well, if you let them, if you are quiet or shy at any point in the game, then somebody is going to pick up that slack. Somebody is going to take that agency if you're not using it. So this is true throughout the entire game, not only session 0. Being quiet and shy is not helpful. Make sure to talk openly about the things you want and the things you don't. And lastly, be open to compromise. It's easy to just say compromise, but then a lot of people don't know how. So here's a good first step to compromising. Agree to something or part of something before you request a change. If the DM has said this game takes place in the real world and you guys all work in IKEA, which is happening in our mage game, I might have somebody say, okay, I agree to work in IKEA, but do I have to be on the retail floor, or can I have some type of different position at IKEA? And Randy's character is going to be IT. So be open to compromise. When the DM wants something, remember the DM is taking on that responsibility of doing the heavy lifting and in some cases creating the world or creating the adventure. So be open to compromise, agree to something or part of something before you request other changes. Did you guys want to add anything to the idea of compromise?
No, I mean, I think that covers it for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something on the last bullet point you had about being shy and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who has been shy themselves at the beginning and has played with other shy people, I would say, like, to the shy people, if you're not sure on what it is that you can do or what you want your character to be doing, I would say talk to the DM, because a lot of times they're going to want to help you have a great story beats for your character. And
yeah, good
like
DMs will do this.
Yeah, like me,
They'll try to draw people out of their shell and put people in the spotlight and give every character a chance to shine.
Yeah,
really good DMs will do that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you know, I would want someone to come to me and say, like, I would like this. And so it's like, okay, you know, maybe we can work something like this into your story coming up. That gives the DM a chance to then write up something to specialize, like, you know, the next session or two could maybe more specialized to that person's arc. You know, and I tried to do that in my last big game for y'all. Was everyone had at least one session kind of dedicated to your characters, or where you were basically the main character.
Yeah.
And that was to try to bring out some of the shyer people, like Travis's wife, Kristen. You know, so I gave her a whole thing about like you're getting a training montage with a god. You know,
yeah. That was a really cool session. I liked that.
And you know, I gave Derek
and Kristen liked it too.
Okay,
yeah. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so you know, if you're unsure, talk to the DM. They're gonna want to get you involved because you know that's for me. That's a really fun thing is the workshop. You know, with my girlfriend Nikki, it's her first time playing the tabletop game, and so we really kind of workshopped her character and the backstory. You know, and I had a lot of fun just kind of helping her with that. And so now it's like, okay, now I know what beats to throw at you to kind of highlight your character.
Yeah.
Also, you're like more often than not, you're gonna save space. I don't think someone's gonna have the gall to make fun of you for something that they're actively doing with you.
If they do,
yeah,
I would kick that person
real.
out of the group. Honestly, if I had someone being rude, like ha ha ha, that was stupid, or your character did something stupid, it's like you can leave. You know,
Yeah.
I would straight up tell someone like, or if
I
it's
love
their house.
the idea, Randy, of Papa Bear DM.
Yeah.
It's like my players are my babies.
And if it's that person's house, it's like, well, after the session, I won't be returning here.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. Nobody has a leg to stand on because we're all playing D&D.
If someone's going to come to the table,
we're all playing whatever role-playing game we're playing.
Yeah. If someone comes to the table and they're like, oh, nerd, I'm be like, look in a mirror, bro.
I'd be like, you're here.
You're here too.
You're sitting right here. You're 2 feet away from me. Yeah, love it. Next, we're going to talk about the different responsibilities and the different duties of a dungeon master in a role-playing game and the player. This is an etiquette episode. Pay attention to these items to make sure that everyone in your game is having a fun time. Here are some dungeon master responsibilities. I think, firstly, it is your responsibility to be descriptive. In this game of pretend, the players have only you as their eyes and ears in your world. So they should see and hear everything that isn't actively hiding. Be as descriptive as you can. Mood music is great for this, as well as making sure to hit the 5 senses that aren't just sight and sound. Hitting things like touch and smell are great ways to also be descriptive. Randy, what's something that you do when you're trying to be descriptive?
I feel like that's something I definitely, in this upcoming Pathfinder game that I'm trying to work on, is getting a description of where I'm taking y'all. So look forward to that in future sessions. I guess what I really like is giving props and giving something that they can, like, you know, something tactile. You know, I've done like little leather-bound journals that had notes in it from NPC characters. Currently, I do like little pieces of paper that have the bounties from the bounty board written out in different, you know, like, you know, I handwrite them. Sometimes if they're a country hick, they're spelling everything phonetically. You know, it's a lot of misspellings. It's a lot of bad grammar, no punctuation.
Come clean the goblins off my farm.
You know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, your average high schooler's level of English.
Yep, pretty much.
And, you know, I got
Can
like little
confirm.
wax seals to put on them. So that's something that I enjoy. And, you know, that helps with the touch kind of aspect of it. But I do want to get better at describing what it is you're seeing, what it looks like, things like that. I do also enjoy audio sometimes if I can, if I have time to prep it. enjoy audio.
My dungeon master trick to being descriptive is asking my players to populate the world with stuff. So I'll say, hey, you've arrived in the town square. Derek, what's one store that's open in the town square? Or, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm over here like, no, I can't, I don't know, the general store, the horseshoe store.
There you go.
Always sells horseshoes.
Or, all right, you open the cellar door and take 3 steps downstairs. Randy, what does it smell like down there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
a
musty,
hard job.
it's wet, and stuff like that. So that was something I did as a teacher. When you're trying to get students' memories or imaginations flowing, you just ask them to start throwing out descriptive words, and that's something that I have a lot of fun doing as a dungeon master, is having my players populate the world with stuff.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that dungeon masters should ideally do, and it's because of what we talked about earlier. Dungeon masters, you should try to provide options. You don't need to fully flesh out every single encounter or step in the player's adventure, because like we said earlier, that often won't happen the way you plan it out. But if you can provide 2 to 3 plot hooks, then players won't feel railroaded. As a teacher, I did this just about every year whenever we would do independent reading units. I would choose 5 different novels, and then my students would choose from that list. If it's only 5 books, I can have read in my life those 5 books. And so I know what activities and things are going to go with those 5 books. But if I told all of my students to just pick anything, well, now I have 150 books that I personally can't account for. So what I'm doing is I'm giving my students the illusion of choice. They think they have a choice from among those 5 books, when to me, on my side, it's not really a choice at all, because I was prepared for any of them. So as a DM, you can just say, here's 2 or 3 plot hooks, and ideally your players will choose one of them. And from that, we can flip over to one player duty, is to stick with the story options or hooks presented by your DM. They work hard before each session, so honor that work and let them present what they've prepared. If you want a complete sandbox, I don't know, go play a video game or go play an MMO.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that it can be done by a human to just create this whole sandbox of things.
Exactly. I don't know a human being who can do that for you. Not in the case of casual role-playing like we're talking about.
Yeah, trying to do like a Westworld type thing.
Yeah, I think most DMs can have 2 or 3 adventure hooks, and Randy's most recent game has done this really well. Here's a literal bounty board that has 3 bounties on it. And me as the player, I'm not going to look at the board and say, okay, there's 3 bounty board letters on there. Instead,
I'd rather go to town and do some shopping.
Exactly. Instead, I'm going to go to town and rob the local magistrate.
To make me cry.
Like, if the DM has not prepared for that at all, why would I ask them to do that for me? It's not fair. It's not collaborative.
I'm just saying, like, that would make me cry. I'm like, okay, give me 5 minutes. And I just go to the computer, to rob the local magistrate.
Give me 2 hours, because that's the time I spent planning at home last night.
No, I would go online and find someone else who did it for me.
Yeah.
Or try.
I don't think it's fair to ask a DM to sandbox or improv something if they've already planned something else.
Yeah. Now, if I said, what do y'all want to do? Then I'm just asking for it.
Yeah. That's the DM's own fault. Mm-hmm. Some other Dungeon Master duties. So I think I mentioned this earlier. Try to be familiar with most game rules and know where to look up any uncommon interactions. For example, I don't need to know everything about doing a car chase, but I should know where the index in the book is just in case that comes up. And secondly, rules are guides. Derek, how about you take this one?
Rules are guides. Keep in mind what you and all the players think would be cool. The rules can be broken. They're not set in stone. You don't have to go crazy with the rules, but, bend it every once in a while for good storytelling.
That's the rule 0 in all of these rule books. It says, remember that this is just a framework. The most important thing is that everybody's having fun.
Matt Mercer just had a thing that said, like, don't let a rule keep the players from having fun. If there's a cool moment that everyone, it's like, we all agree this would be a cool thing that could happen, but Rule 27B-1-E says you can't do that. And it's like, yeah, but that's a dumb rule. Well, as the DM, you have the right to bend or break or delete the rule.
Right.
And so, yeah, don't let the rules restrict players from having fun.
Although I completely agree with what Randy said. Restrictions can breed innovation. Like if you're, I don't know, locked in a cell or something like that, and I don't have my thieves' tools, I don't have anything like that. There's a window there. Maybe some loose rocks that you could push a wall down or whatever.
Or like in Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe I can use the bench in my cell to lift the door.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like to be like creative and maybe
MacGyver
figure out, because I mean it makes a more interesting story. I feel like, oh yeah, I used I used the key to open the door, or I have made a Rube Goldberg machine to blow the door off the cage, killing the guard in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I think I'm in the camp that rules often create more stories. Like, I don't necessarily think it's super interesting whenever a god comes in to solve the problem. If Achilles is a demigod and he's stuck in some situation and all he has to do is like pray really hard and his mother comes down to save him, like that to me is not super interesting, but there's certainly room in the same adventure for a time when Achilles is about to die and he needs his mother's intervention. Both of those scenarios can exist in the same game, where the DM can say, listen, mom's not going to help you with this problem, but she might help you with something more serious. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the books and stories you listen and ingest and stuff like that. That doesn't happen in stories like that.
Yeah.
But, like, I know there's the Deus Ex Machina type thing, situation sometimes, but that's in very dire situations. They're not going to come and help you when you lock your keys in the car or something like that. You got to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like Vox Machina, the TV show on Amazon, has done some pretty cool stuff with, I can't remember, it's the little cleric. It's the halfling cleric.
Pike?
Yes. Like, literally her praying so hard that her god did ward her. But that's also part of her character being a cleric and having this holy power. Like, she was crying out for help in like these dire needs. And so that made a really cool cinematic experience for the players at the table. This character has played this cleric this whole time, and they always pray, but it's always just, like, it's kind of falling on deaf ears situation. Yeah. But it finally paid off, and it lent itself to a really awesome moment of, like, you're glowing with holy power. Your mace feels light as a feather in your hand as you swing it to slay down these foes. Like, that's like a Goosebumps kind of event. It's like, no, the rules don't normally allow this. But man, was it cool? Is it something that we're all going to talk about later on?
Or maybe like a warlock, the whole party's on the brink of death, and it's like, you know what, the only way we're going to get out of this is if I sell a little bit more of my soul, or make some other kind of price or whatever for some power boost to like save the day. But then that creates further implications and storylines that you could follow. Like, okay, now you've got no soul, or now you've traded this and you can't get it back.
Yeah, it's caused another problem to solve.
Yeah,
but it helped you in the moment. That's the kind of rules I guess I was talking about.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Some other things that dungeon masters need to be aware of. In most games, the dungeon master, game master, storyteller, whatever this player is called, you are a referee that ensures fair play. And we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about who takes what time and quiet or shy players. The DM should enforce turn-taking when appropriate and make sure that each player has the chance to play. We've talked about this briefly in the past during a News from the Warfront. Some ideas for turn-taking are things like setting a timer, making sure that each person has the opportunity to say what actions they want to do before giving one player with a long action all of the spotlight. Making sure everybody has an opportunity to contribute. What do you guys want to add about fair play?
I think I've mentioned it before, just not letting any one person be the main character or whatever. Just
steamroll
share that no one wants to be your sidekick. Everyone wants to be their own hero. Mm-hmm. So taking turns and being courteous to each other. Oh, this is his moment, let him have it. Or she's about to do something cool, let me just stay in the back.
Yeah.
Because then when it's your turn, they'll do the same for you.
Yeah. Some other things that a dungeon master should do, and Randy mentioned this earlier, is helping new players. If you have a new player, either they're new to the rules or they're new to role-playing in general, help them out with common options or actions that they can take. A lot of new players come from video games like Baldur's Gate or Skyrim or Dragon Age. This is what it was like when my wife started playing Dungeons & Dragons with us for the first time. In those games, conversations are played out with lists of dialogue options. So each time we were in a conversation or a role-playing scenario, she would feel stuck because she didn't know what her options are. And that was kind of an opportunity for me as her husband and Randy as the DM for that game to encourage imagination and allow her the opportunity to really break free and say, you're not stuck in a dialogue scene right now. If you want to punch him, you can, if he's just finished insulting your honor. So help new players out with common options for actions or dialogue. And like I said, encourage imagination. Allow them to really break out of the video game framework.
Yeah, it can be, I guess, overwhelming when you're first, you're coming from like a video game or whatever, where everything's done for you, to suddenly being thrown in the deep water of, I don't know what my character's voice is. I don't know what, it's things that you have to figure out yourself, and it's hard to do that without the guide rails.
So many video games have a silent protagonist, just somebody who doesn't speak and it's just lines. It's like, no, in Dungeons & Dragons, you're a very vocal protagonist. It's literally your mind that gets to make up the things that your characters can do. And the Dungeon Master can be an assistant for that.
If there is a character that's shy and I guess is having trouble vocalize what it is, like if they can't think of like, what would my character say? I guess a good way to kind of coach them through it is like, well, how is your character feeling in this moment?
Yeah.
For one.
That's great advice.
Okay, so your character's angry. Now, are they the kind of person that's going to be angry and stay silent? Or are they going to no, I'm going to voice my opinion, consequences be darned.
Mm-hmm.
You could say it, Randy. We
no,
get one bleep.
No. I'm gonna make you the problem child there. Yeah, so, maybe trying to coach someone through the dialogue, not putting words in their mouth, but just kind of helping their helping them find their voice.
Yeah, I think
in
that's
these situations.
Really great advice. I used to do that as a teacher, trying to get kids to write stuff. I'd say, well, how's this character feeling? And I'd tell them to, put a name to the feeling that they're going through. Name the emotion. And then what did this character do with that? And we can do the same thing in role-playing. I think that's great advice. I had one last thing written down for Dungeon Masters. Have combats planned out. Most role-playing games are built around the idea of combat. Fighting is not often something that we can do in real life. And so for a lot of people, these role-playing games, this escapism is an opportunity to let out our aggression or whatever.
Cleave people in twain.
Can I let you guys see behind the curtain?
Yeah.
I have never planned out a combat.
Oh, really?
I never stat them out. I never do any work about their AC or anything.
Really?
I say in that moment, I'm like, all right, there's 7 people in this room. They've got 15 AC or 16 AC, whatever. Right. And they have enough health until I feel like y'all have done enough. You could do... Okay. If someone does a big critical strike or something like that, oh yeah, he's cleaved in half. You've done it. But maybe that was just one hit versus someone that's taken 40 damage and still going. I'm trying to make it kind of more flowy, and especially with boss things. And this is kind of like playing with the rules, not sticking with the rules. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure everyone gets to do something cool in the fight or something like that. Sometimes you don't hit or you miss, or maybe you get mind control or something like that. But letting everyone take their shot or take their hits at the bosses, I find it more enjoyable as a DM, but then I never play as the DM, so.
Ooh, Derek, let me tell you, there are people on Reddit who would disagree. They would feel cheated at the idea that you didn't stat out your characters. Yeah. I stumbled upon a post, this was maybe a month ago, I guess, of a DM who had asked if it was okay if they fudged their own rolls, because they were upset that a player had fudged their rolls. Lots of people were in the comments saying, what are the point of the rules if they only apply to me?
I feel like a player shouldn't fudge the roll because, I mean, it's as the DM, it's like, okay, if you don't want me to fudge, maybe this person does just kill your character and you have to roll your character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, is that what you want? No? Okay, well, I'm going to fudge the roll where they didn't crit twice.
Like, I'll fudge the numbers, like, when I'm DM, like, let's say, I just did 100 damage to you or whatever, because I didn't stat these guys out and they do ridiculous damage or whatever. I'm not going to kill your characters. I'm going to make you think that you're getting close to, like, oh, I don't know if we're going to get this guy. And then finally I'm like, yeah, you killed him. Good job, guys.
I'm telling you, I was really surprised at the comments I was reading of people who was like, I would feel completely cheated. And I was just like, I don't know, if I'm the DM, maybe I made a human error and messed up statting one creature to fight 4 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I don't know how to balance things.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, Derek. I'm on your side. I think game masters should feel free to fudge rolls when appropriate in order to make more interesting story beats. But man, the public does not agree.
I really don't think that players should fudge, because then it's like, well, then you're taking the game away from yourself.
Yeah.
If you're a player, but like what Derek was saying, sometimes maybe the DM did stat out something and the players either kill it real quick, or maybe the DM did stat it out and it's like, you sure that you 4 level 3 adventurers want to fight a adult red dragon? You sure you don't do that? Is that your final answer?
What I do in that situation is demonstrate to you guys, like, sure, yeah, you can do it. The dragon's going to just breathe fire, and the people, it's just going to incinerate.
Do a little kick the puppy DMing, just to really demonstrate just how evil this thing is.
Yeah. You can do that where it's like, oh yeah, the other party that was with y'all, they got obliterated. Do you still want to keep charging? No? Okay.
I would also just break character and, like, guys, he he's a level 15 dragon or whatever. He's going to kill you if you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's also an option too. So people who, that's a session 0 issue.
Yeah, it really is.
If you want the DM to be just as, like, I want real rolls, no fudging, I want the numbers to matter. Okay, well, that's a session 0 topic. Talk to DM. Let him decide. He still may lie to you and say he did, but he's not. But that's up to him. I kind of do a hybrid. I kind of stat out stuff. Like, I know how many people I want to have, and I have a general idea of about, like, how strong I want them to be. And I'll usually find some kind of character that I know is about on par with those stats. I may reskin them or something like that.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's fun, and it's a really good combat. Sometimes y'all roll them. Like, I had the situation where I had a barbarian and a fighter come around a corner, but y'all had planned for that.
Lit their up.
Yeah.
Was that Kristen's lightning breath?
Yeah.
It
was one shot the barbarian before he had a chance to rage because he was a
Well, it wasn't just Chris. It wasn't Kristen's lightning breath. Also, it was my Kristen's. Also, I think, like, hit him with the fireball. So it was like both at the same time.
Yeah.
We, like, readied our actions or something.
Yeah, y'all just ambushed him to come around a corner.
That was cool.
And I mean, you one shot 2 of my characters for that combat, and I was like, okay, they do a lot of damage. And so I had my reskinned flesh golem just be more tanky.
Yeah.
In response,
The only Dungeons and Dragons game I ever DM'd was the module straight from the Strixhaven book. And so I will say that having those creatures, already statted out and already balanced out for a party of your level, it worked out really well for me. I did not have to.
Yeah,
I did not have to do a lot of fudging for that, and I just used the creatures as they were originally written.
Yeah.
Whenever I think the only other game I've dungeon mastered has been Mage in the past, but character creation for Mage is so much faster, and the rules for Magic are so much looser that statting out those characters doesn't take very long for me either. So in my head, I'll usually say I anticipate them fighting, I don't know, one of these 3 things during this session. And so I'm going to stat out those 3 things, and then whichever ones they fight, I'm ready for them.
Yeah. And then that's something that I want to get better at is preparing fights and having, like, I have all those stat cards and everything like that. So I want to start using those a bit more.
Those stat cards should ideally make it easier for you to improv more fights.
Yeah. It's just, since I usually don't host, it's hard to bring 4 binders of stat cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
I a little bit regret getting the binders for them. I'm like, I should have just left them in the box.
Oh, really?
Because they look cool on the shelf,
right?
But it is like like having to go through and categorize all the different creature types like
that makes sense.
Do I do it by challenge rating? Do I do it by creature type? So I think I did like a creature type theme.
Maybe by environment where they might be found.
Which is usually also kind of close to creature types. Yeah. Like undeads keep together, devils, demons, things like that, slimes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I do want to start using those more also because they also have their magic abilities already kind of statted out for you and tell you what to do.
Check it out.
Yeah, and I've noticed that in my games I don't do a lot of magic enemies against y'all, and I want to rectify that.
Yeah, there are higher level enemies that have magical abilities, but if I don't know what all those magical abilities are, then that means that enemy is super neutered whenever I'm controlling them.
Yeah. Or super overpowered.
Or super overpowered because I'm calling spells out of my you know what.
You could say it, Travis.
No,
okay.
I can't.
This is a safe space.
No, I can't.
You're going to be the problem child. Just accept it.
So let's talk about some player duties. I mentioned earlier already that being a player certainly comes with some perks. You don't have to do a lot of preparation in between session in order to play. You can show up and you can start making decisions on the spot, responding to whatever the DM has provided for you. But again, that comes with some responsibilities. The choices that you make should be responsible, and they should be made with everyone's fun in mind. So the first one I put was collaboration with the DM. This experience has not been catered just for you alone. The DM has worked to provide set dressing, side characters, and plot hooks. And so, players should use what the DM has provided. Stick with the story options or hooks presented by the DM. Dungeon Masters are going to be a lot happier with those players who are happy to go with the flow and play the game, rather than go off and rebel just for the sake of rebelling. Like I said, the DM had to work before the session. So as a player, honor that work and let them present what they prepared. Like I said, you don't always have to do it in the way that the DM presented, but contribute to the story in a collaborative way. If the DM presents to you a princess who's been kidnapped and brought to the mines by goblins, opening up your own bar and grill is not relevant.
You do that during the downtime after you save the princess.
Starting your own business is not the way people want to spend their session today.
I don't know.
Derek.
Like I said, that's downtime. That's downtime.
I built that, what was it, a bazaar?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
but we talked about that during downtime periods of like,
yeah,
right,
that just happened in the time between two sessions.
Yeah. And secondly, players, but you should collaborate with other players. We mentioned turn taking already. Be a good turn taker. Don't be the person to hog everyone's spotlight. If you have an idea that's going to take a little more time, warn everybody first. Or ask if other people have any contributions to what you want to do. Ask if other players want to do a long action with you. But it's a collaborative story. If you are in a role-playing game group, then you have signed up to play a game with other people. So do things with other people. Turn-taking, assisting, and cooperation.
If you're a caster and you know you're going to cast a spell on your turn during combat, don't start planning it when it's your turn. Start planning it as soon as your last turn ended. Let people do their thing, because I tell you right now, the fighter's going to swing. Barbarian's going to swing.
I got a phone call. It's the kettle. It's for you.
It says you're black.
All right. I'm not talking about magic here. We're not talking about magic. And I do plan in magic. It's just sometimes, I drew a card that I didn't know until just this second.
Yeah.
How is this going to affect, especially later on turns. But also, Derek, everyone in this group has taken long turns where it's like, when was the last time I played? 30 minutes ago? Whew.
I don't take long turns.
Derek, you set that timer last time I played? During my last turn that last game?
20-something.
Hey,
I was
Travis,
just trying to get an idea.
This turn 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. I was just trying to get an idea of what a late game turn time limit felt like. If I was just imagining it was taking a long time, or if whatever, and that just happened to be the turn that Travis was doing this monstrous,
just
Winota
crazy combo. Winota tokens, impact tremors, just trying to finish out the game all in one turn. Anyway.
But I was saying, that's a magic where there's multiple things going on. You have multiple things you can do in a turn.
Right.
And your normal tabletop RPG, it's going to be cast a spell, do a movement or some kind of like an interaction,
right?
Or swing a sword. Like
so we
barbarians.
Can add to this list for player duties. Know your abilities.
Yeah.
Know your class features. That's what you can prepare in between sessions. Is knowing all of your abilities, knowing every option that you have in a fight or in a conversation. Know what all your skills are. Know what your common spells do. Use sticky notes and note where those spells are in your book. That way you can look them up quickly and easily. Or get spell cards if you're playing D&D 5e.
Or just copy and paste them onto a Word document and print that thing out.
That's it. So that's what I did for my whip pirate guy that I'm playing in Pathfinder right now. I literally went, because Pathfinder is a new game for all of us, I went through every single one of his abilities, put them all into one Word document for myself, and printed that out. That way, instead of me having to deal with a 300-page core rulebook, I have my 7-page Word document that I can flip through.
That's what I did for all my D&D work group players, but they're all new players. It was like, all right, here's your racial passive ability, and here's what it does.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's level 1 abilities, what they do, level 2 abilities, what they do. I'm actually going to go through and redo that, though, for them, and say, like, these are attacks, these are...
Yeah, group all of their attack actions together.
Yeah,
group
combat actions, non-combat actions, and then, like, passives. It's like, these are your 3 main things. If you want to swing your weapon, this is it. D20 plus blank.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna have it all that statted out for them because they have it as it is now, but they're still flipping between pages and they're still getting lost. But if any of them are listening to this, I still love you guys. I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just want to help you.
Yeah. So player duties, collaboration with the DM, collaboration with other players, know your abilities, and like I said, assistance, cooperation. It is not the Travis show or the Derek show. It's about our group. And it's about making sure that the group is successful. With the exception of, like, during this episode, Derek's character is going to shine. And we talked about this in our Session 0. If I know ahead of time that that's happening, then I'm happy to play supporting cast for that. Because I know that there's going to be an upcoming episode where I'm the main character. Remember that everyone has responsibility for everyone else's fun. Anything you guys want to add here to our main topic?
Yeah, in kind of just along all the same lines or whatever, is also pay attention to other people's turns.
Yes.
I know we're all guilty of this. We don't, we get bored or, whatever, we get on our phones, or maybe we do get caught up trying to read our abilities and plan out stuff. Like we said, it's a collaborative story thing, and someone may be doing something cool, and it's like, okay, oh, no one saw that, no one heard that. That's cool. That's fun.
No one cared that I shoved this guy off the edge of the boat. Like,
yeah.
No one cared that I came through that window like Batman and pulled that guy out like Batman.
Yeah, it's not fun for anyone to also recap the last 30 minutes of something. It's like, oh, I was on my phone. What happened? Okay, so this, and then and then have to do that every turn.
I saw a post on Reddit. This was several months ago, but people are still talking about it. It was on the EDH Reddit, so they were playing Magic, and a guy asked if it was rude to play Switch while somebody else was taking a long turn. Yes.
Rude.
Yes.
It's like
it doesn't matter that they're taking a long turn. You should be paying attention to the game. I don't know. That's me. I would be so offended if somebody just straight up unzipped their Switch and started playing Mario Kart during my turn.
Sorry to take away from your Mario Kart time.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, for me, if someone did that, it'd be like, oh, you want to play Mario Kart? All right, I'll just concentrate on you so you can go play Mario Kart. So I can get you out of the game faster. So you can
or it's just like, I'm sorry, this person has conceded. Like, why should any of us care about his presence in the game if he doesn't even want to look at us? There is one last point for players. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I just want to hit it again. If you want to play a loner who does not want to be in a group, go play a video game. If you want to make people angry, do it in a video game where you only piss off computer programs and not real people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Like there's...
Or play a board game that is...
designed for that experience.
For one player. Yeah, there are board games where it's like it's you versus the board. The board has actions that it takes automatically. You flip the cards for it, you do the actions for it, whatever, but you're playing against the game.
There are solo board games out there There are even solo role-playing games out there. Yep. I'll do a plug for 1,000-Year-Old Vampire.
Yeah.
Really cool experience. It's like a journaling role-playing game where you are a vampire, and then the game has something like 200 prompts.
I think it's 2d6.
I think it's 2d6. So that means you're going to go between 2 and 12 prompts up. You're going to read that short prompt, and then you're just going to write a short journal entry about what your character does for that prompt. So the prompt may say something like, someone rich has learned your identity and your abilities. What do you do about it? So then you just journal how you interact with that person. And it'll say something like, mark this person down as an important figure in your life. This is going to be a recurring person, so it'll just tell you that. And then you journal about what that person does, or how you interacted with that person, or just who that person is. And then you roll the 2d6, you move up another prompt, and then you keep doing stuff. It's a really neat experience, and you do it by yourself. So if you want to play a loner character who does not want the group to succeed, just do that by yourself. There's no reason to...
out there for you.
There are games out there for you.
So the new one that Nikki and I just bought is Nemesis Lockdown. It's 1 to 5 players, so...
Yeah, so you can play it alone.
I'm curious to try to on my own sometime after we've gotten the hang of it. I want to try it. It looks like it's basically you're on a spaceship or some sort of like space base. There's aliens. Have fun surviving alone. Don't make too much noise. It attracts them.
Yeah. I mean, Agricola is one of my favorite games, but it has a solo mode. Marvel Legendary has a solo mode.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of games out there for you. You do not need to piss off real, actual people. You can play a video game where you only piss off computer programs, and you can simulate that feeling, or you can play a board game alone. But if you're going to sign up to play a cooperative, collaborative game with other people, then you should be cooperative and collaborative. Okay, let's get to our news from the Warfront. All right, we've got a post from our RPG, and this player wants to know how to deal with a player who hogs the spotlight. He starts off... Actually, I've been saying he, but I don't know. This could be any type of player. I don't want to lose the friendship I have with a player, but when in game, he ruins the play experience by always being the lead, and sometimes tries to cause problem for my character during the game. He may think it's funny, but I think it's annoying. A little detail here, they are playing Call of Cthulhu, which is kind of mystery set in the 20s, kind of mystery, fear of the unknown kind of game, where your players are normal humans, and every time they learn about the paranormal, they are slowly driven insane. He says he may think it's funny to constantly cause problems for my character, but I think it's annoying. I didn't realize how long this has been ongoing until the latest incident. He said to my character, take the lead, in order to go fight a big monster. And he said, in response, I refused. He said, you're the one with the rifle, so I tossed it to him. So they're having these in-game altercations and arguments. One player thinks it's funny, but the other player doesn't. It says, in everyday life, he's a decent guy, we talk about stuff, but in the game world, he's getting irritating. He takes over the table, and the rest of us just let him do it. We play once a month. I've noticed that the Game Master gives him a lot more time than the rest of us. He says, I want to see what one more session's like before I address my concerns. We talked a little bit about this, about players taking too much of the spotlight, and whose responsibility that is on both the players and the Game Master's side. But maybe the Game Master doesn't know. We've got a player here who's noticed it. What are some things you guys would do in this situation?
I mean, I think the only two options you have, and maybe you guys have different options, is either to talk about it or to stop playing with this person. Mm-hmm. You'll probably, if you stop playing, you'll probably have to explain why. You're going to be talking anyways. It's just a conversation you're going to have.
He says twice, I don't want to lose the friendship I have with this player, that they're friends in everyday life. Mm-hmm. But this other player has a game behavior that he finds.
I think he's probably not even doing it on purpose, this person. Mm-hmm. I think we've all been there where we get kind of swept up into the character, into the story or whatever, and we don't realize how
irritating
we could be, or how much time we're bogarting or whatever. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of lost in the moment. But for someone who's getting their toe stepped on, it might be very annoying. So maybe talking to him or that person about it may give them the awareness to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was, taking over like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Definitely the best option, in my personal opinion, is to talk to them and do those like, listen, this is how I feel. Let them, respond. And if they push your feelings aside, though, then it's like, well, maybe I'm not as good of a friend to him as I thought I was.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, or just be friends outside of this game. Just don't play that game with him.
Well, I mean, I feel like if someone just shrugs off the conversation, you're like, hey, I feel like, you're kind of like treating me this way or that way. And then he's like, oh, sounds like a you problem. I'd be like, oh, sounds like a problem I don't have anymore because bye.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know these people, but it seems like they're friends outside of it.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't be the reaction.
You never know. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right.
Reddit's a wild place, man.
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
We would think that people would have common decency, but, the world is full of people who don't have that. And they can pretend like it for a bit, but then once something gets brought up, they're like, well, no.
Yeah, it could be like a defensive type of situation where you bring it up and they're, like, no, I don't. No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which is difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we talked about this actually just last episode, using I messages to describe an annoying behavior or when you want something to change. You describe your own feelings, and then you describe the action that caused it. So in this scenario, the poster might say, I feel insignificant when I can't participate in conversations. Ideally, saying that to both the game master and this other player, they would say, we want you to feel significant. We don't want you to feel bad. And so we can start inviting you into conversations and asking your opinion and things like that. We talked earlier this episode about a shy or introverted character. Sometimes those players who may be new to the game or are new to the experience of just speaking up and stepping out, sometimes they need to be invited into that situation. Let me ask this. Do you guys think this poster should talk to the game master first, or just do it all at once?
I think do it all at once.
I think speak to the player who you're having the issue with first.
Okay.
It's like, I think go to them first, and then if they aren't responsive, then go to the game master. Because, I mean, I feel like if you go to the game master first, they may feel like, well, why didn't you come to me? Why you got to tattle?
Sure. Why you got to go over my head? Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like if someone's got an issue with me, come to me, talk to me face to face.
Randy, you sound like a guy on reality TV right now. You got a problem with me, tell it to my face.
Well, I mean, I've had an issue at work where I thought me and this principal were on the same wavelength. She asked me about some iPads. I told her, I would look into it. Thumbs up, all good. I'll get back with you. And then she went over my head during a meeting and was like, well, the technician at our school didn't seem like he cared to help us with this issue. And so my boss called me into his office and was like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I told her we're good. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to do this. It was all positive conversation.
Sure.
And so then I went back to her and I was like, I'm not sure if there was like a miscommunication. I was told that this happened. And of course, to my face, she's all, oh, okay, that's good. No. And I'm like, well, I don't take anything you say at face value now, because you obviously can't be straight with me.
Sure.
So
yeah, and I think this situation is similar to that. After hearing your opinion, I think I agree with you that this person should talk to that other player first, because it might not be an issue for the entire group, and if they can solve it between just the two of them, then they're good.
Yeah, and there may be someone else in the group that had the same thought that you were, but didn't want to bring it up, and so you may have also kind of helped them out.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this person's not being such a time hog anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, iMessages are one way. We also talked last week about compliment sandwiches. This person said in the post twice that they don't want to lose this friendship, that this is somebody that they value. So tell them that in your compliments. You can say things like, your character is a good face for the group. Your character has, the good social skills and, high persuasion, high deception that we need. But I still want a chance to contribute and create story drama. I still want a chance to make decisions that affect the group or decisions that affect a conversation. So compliment sandwich, let somebody know that they're still valued, but then talk about what you want or what change you want from it. Some people online were asking if there are any differences here between if they played face-to-face, like sitting around a table together, or if they played online. Would you guys handle any of your advice differently in either of those situations?
I think I would still probably just reach out to the person before going over their head to the game master.
Derek, how about you? Any changes based on... An online versus a face-to-face scenario?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the face-to-face situation could be easier. I don't think there's a difference for me. If it was online, if it's me personally, I don't know if I could imagine myself in this scenario, but maybe just letting this game peter out and then fail to join later on or something.
Sure.
But like you said, though, that they're actual friends,
Yeah,
so-
I mean, I'll hang out with them in other stuff and do
yeah.
other things. But oops, I've got things going on or something. I don't know. I'm a snake. I don't know what y'all want from me.
Derek said, sorry, I'm not a good person. What do you want me to say?
I feel like if
I'm
I was on the
manipulating.
receiving end of that, I would feel like you were being flaky by being like, oh, sorry, I can't make it. Oh, sorry, I'll just keep making excuses. It'd be like,
Yeah.
I guess they don't like us, so they would never know that there was something wrong with the game. They would just think that maybe you stopped liking them
Right.
outside of the game, or that you're just kind of a flaky person in general. And so it kind
Yeah.
of makes you look like the bad person.
I think what I would actually do is just be way more assertive in the game.
Yeah.
That's always an option.
I think that's what I'd end up doing. Just changing my behavior. The guy says he tends to take over the table and the rest of us just let him do it. Well,
Yeah.
stop letting him do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then maybe he'll realize, like I said, he probably doesn't even realize he's doing it. He's just filling space as the party, whatever.
I agree. I think the best case scenario that you're looking at is that he made a character with high social stats and just thinks that nobody else wanted to do it. And so they're just taking over.
Yeah, he feels like he's doing his job.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
is my role. I'm doing it. I don't realize I'm stepping on toes.
Yeah.
It could be shy players.
That really is a great scenario because if the other players want more input, he might just say like, hey, that's great. I just did these high social stats, but I'm happy to let other people in. My Merfolk Pirate in Randy's game is in exactly that situation. I did high deception and high intimidation, but in our encounter so far, I've still been like, okay, anybody want to do anything else before I just growl in this guy's face?
We just both take turns mean mugging him.
So, to summarize our advice for this player, I think your best case scenario is to talk with this guy who you have called your friend. Assume that he's going to do things that a good friend would do. Assume the best and say, I don't know if you've noticed this. Your character is a good face and I appreciate your social skills, but I want more input in conversations in our game. Can you give that to me? And I think your best case scenario is he says, yeah, absolutely. And you move on from there.
They said that the GM tends to give him more time. What it probably is that because they're both longtime pals, it's that the GM is more comfortable with this guy, so he spends more time with him. So maybe being more open and getting to know the GM better.
Yeah.
The GM's probably, got their own little shyness going out.
Using him as a crutch.
Yeah, I think that's great advice too. Always use this game as a way to grow closer with all of the other players. Get to know them more, their likes and dislikes, beyond just this game. Great. Any last comments before Derek's words of wisdom?
More like words of a wise guy.
I need you guys to stall for another 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
I would say, how about, Derek, you just record something on your own and send it to him later.
Yeah, it's a little robot message. Burn down the corporations.
Eat the right.
Burn down the corporations. Eat the rich. Join a union. Seize the means of production.
Don't let your bosses tell you what to do.
I love it.
We're getting off track.
Okay.
Yeah. Cut all this.
Keep it.
No, I probably will cut most of it.
So I can say,
Randy! I'll have to bleep that too. Derek, are you
Okay,
ready?
word of wisdom. These things we've talked about, I think they're going to be the cheat codes that you can use for real life. I think any successful relationship, whether it be a romantic or professional or whatever, it's about compromising and listening to other people and stuff. So, I don't know, take these skills, get a spouse, sow seeds.
Sow seeds!
Climb the corporate ladder, burn it all down.
That way you can be the boss. That way you can
That's
be
the way to
the
do it.
ultimate game master of your society.
The only way to destroy capitalism is to use capitalism.
there are no bosses in anarchy.
Derek, those were beautiful words of wisdom. A great way of injecting your own flavor.
I feel like I blacked out and Benjamin took over for a second.
No, you came back in the end, don't worry.
Yeah.
You took back over.
We're fighting for control.
Yeah, Benjamin's spirit possessed you at the beginning, and then you were like, no, eat the rich.
Anarchy!
All right, great job. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can send messages to us directly by commenting on the YouTube video, by sending ratings and reviews through any of your audio podcast platforms, and you can send us direct messages through email at mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. And we're happy to provide direct responses and to address your questions here on the pod. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening, and Derek and Randy, as always, thank you guys for being my great friends. Good night.
Good night.
Later. Hey, later.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.